We're talking up the Hogs with Ty Hudson from Pig Trail Network. Please join him right there. And Ty actually has an announcement for us, don't you?
I do. Pretty excited, actually, Mark. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about it. Starting on August 30th this month, or later this month, the end of the month, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., we're going to have an hour-long daily show. It's going to be on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I use the term daily loosely, but the goal is we're going to have those 3 live streams. I get a lot of, my availability is just, it's been all over the place throughout the summer. And the goal is to have a place where everyone knows they can go to catch, the Razorbacks, talking about the Hogs. Cause sports radio around here, not the greatest, if I'm just being honest. And so I want to give fans something else, an alternative, and it's going to be on that YouTube, on the Pig Trail Network YouTube channel. Again, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, starting the week of Rice on August 30th. So pretty excited about that.
Nice. That should be a good time. Again, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, as you mentioned, right there on the banner, 11 a.m. Good stuff. Let's look at the offense. KJ Jefferson got his feet wet last year and the year before. 41 attempts, 3 touchdowns. Is there reasonable expectation that we see a more mature and decisive KJ Jefferson, and what the improvement areas could be going into this fall versus what we saw last year?
So KJ, I had my eyes on him. Obviously, we saw what he did against Missouri. Pretty spectacular performance. And then I got to see him in 2 of the scrimmages. I got to watch their second scrimmage and then, of course, their red-white scrimmage. I was pretty impressed with that third scrimmage. I thought that offense just came out completely on fire. And I noticed this against Mizzou. It looked more and more like what Kendall Briles wanted to do. And he told the media, KJ Jefferson, told the media, they asked him, what's the advantage between you over Felipe Franks, obviously the Razorbacks starting quarterback a year ago, who transferred in from Florida, who's now in the NFL. And KJ said, I can run. So we're going to have more RPO. It's going to look more like the offense that Kendall Briles is trying to run at Arkansas. So I don't know, his passing abilities, his strengths are definitely the deep ball. I mean, his ability to throw the deep ball, again, Mizzou, in both the scrimmages that I've watched, every bit of footage you've had of KJ, you've got to go back and watch him throw the deep ball. He throws a pretty accurate he throws a pretty accurate deep ball, and I think that's going to be his strength. He does need to work on his pass completion percentage. I think he's hovering around 58%, 58, 57%. Those aren't great numbers. Some of those are drops from receivers. Okay, I get that, but I think that is an area he needs to work on a little bit, delivering a more catchable ball. But thankfully, he's going to have Treylon Burks and guys like that to throw to. But, I think on the offensive side of the ball, the offensive line, you're talking about 4 returning starters. I mean, essentially, if they don't end up rotating guys in and out, which I think they're going to do, we're already kind of seeing some battles happening up and down. And, of course, we had the most recent news of Ricky Stromberg, who has an MCL sprain, who's going to miss time up until – I think it sounds like he's going to be ready to go by Rice. I don't know if that means he's going to participate in practice that week or not. So that means they're going to move Ty Clary from right guard to center, and they're going to move Bo Limmer up to the starting right guard spot. Here's the thing, Mark. There was a time when Arkansas didn't know if they had enough room for threes up front on the offensive line. They didn't know they could go 3 deep at any one position on the offensive line, which you know what that means for the back end, and you know what that means for development and everything moving forward. They're so deep at every position. And I would even argue there's some quality depth up there. You've got Luke Jones at left guard, the possibility of Tykees Crawford, the transfer, who, he's kind of been all over the place, but ended up going to Charlotte and coming back to Arkansas, was previously committed to Arkansas. He's battling. I think he's going to end up battling for that right tackle spot over Dalton Wagner. You've got experience up front. So you have everything in place for Arkansas to be better. The biggest question mark, Mike Woods being gone. How much of an effect does that have on the offense? We know he's a fantastic deep route guy. You lost that. Now you've got Burks, who can do a little bit of everything, but who's behind him, right? That's the biggest question mark, along with KJ Jefferson. So everything's in place. Traylon Smith, I think, is one of the most underestimated running backs, or one of the most overlooked running backs in the SEC. And I'm not saying that as a Hog fan. I'm saying that as someone who's watched a lot of college football. This guy averaged north of right around 5 to 5.5 yards per carry, battling with Rakeem Boyd for carries last year. Didn't actually take over till the end of the year. Traylon Smith is pretty damn good. Behind him, there are question marks about who's up next. Sam Pittman I think he's alluded to that twice about not having a second running back named. I think he's doing that. That's partly coach speak. I think really what's going on, we know the tight end spot. They move guys around. They just recently moved a running back of all positions to tight end. I think what's really going on here is there's a fight. There's a battle going on between two incoming freshmen, Raheem Sanders, 6'2", 225 pounds, and A.J. Green, both highly rated 4-star running backs or athletes out of high school. So A.J. Green, Raheem Sanders, I think there's a battle going on between the two of those guys. I'm going to tell you something, Mark. Whoever wins that 2 spot, I think, you're in good shape there. Those are 2 guys I think really highly of, along with some already pieces that were, or some already existing pieces that were already there a year ago, some existing parts to the offense in the backfield. TJ Hammonds and a couple other guys. You have a walk-on in Oglesby, who I don't really know much about. But, yeah, I think on the offensive side of things, they're headed in the right direction, but there's still some question marks. Receiver 2, put my hands where my camera. Receiver number 2, KJ Jefferson, and tight end. I think those are 3 areas right now are the biggest question marks for Arkansas on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, Green and Sanders were the second and third rated recruits in that 21 class. And if anyone's doing anything positive on offense, my guess is going to be there's a Traylon involved. That's going to be my initial evaluation of that. Burks with 51 catches, 7 touchdowns. Smith led the team in rushing. Again, broke that 5 yards per carry. And they're looking for the second guy, but they've got 2 prime 4-stars that are just arriving on campus. Figuratively, folks, they've been around for a while, but in regards to getting carries and the 2 freshmen coming into play. All right, I'm going to hit you up, Ty, with some numbers I see here in Athlons, and you tell me what they mean and if they translate to this upcoming season. So this is going back to 2020, of course. Arkansas made almost a 3-yard per attempt improvement per pass attempt from 2019 to 2020. That was the 3rd best mark in the nation in regards to improvement in the passing game, getting more chunk yardage per play.
Yeah, well, that was obviously thanks to, I think, Kendall Briles and Felipe Franks. I think that, the idea was that we're going to always play in front of the marker. I mean, it seemed like a lot of the goal was, first down or chunk of plays or chunk of yardage or bust. A lot of deep throws, a lot more bombs, a lot of fade and go routes down the field. Traylon Burks, Mike Woods really helped improve their offense. And I think, too, they also averaged – I hope I'm not spoiling anything what you're trying to do here. I think they averaged like almost 55 yards more per game on offense. So it's very clear that Kendall Briles was the right guy for the job.
This next number, I think, is even more impressive considering that they played no out-of-conference opponents, that they did this in 2020 in comparison to 2019 when they didn't have the 4 non-conference opponents that are lesser opponents than what they face in conference. So in 2019, Arkansas, yards per play is one of the great indicators of how dominant a team is or is not, and directly relates to winning percentage. In yards per play, Arkansas was being outgained by its opponents by 1.33 yards per play in 2019. Now, in 2020, they were able to at least gain a little bit more yardage per play, about 0.1 yards per play than their opponents. So they made up almost 1.5 yards per play, and that's a credit to the offense and the defense. And again, I think that's even more impressive considering it was against 10 SEC opponents.
Yeah, and I didn't know that number. That's actually a really fascinating number. They we saw the trick plays, right? You saw a lot of the end arounds and things like that. But I think you you're heading in the right direction there. You talked about the better defensive play. I think that played a role in what they were doing differently and getting more opportunities on offense because their takeaway ratio, Mark, I think they were, and I know this is actually focusing on the defense, but I think they were third or second in the SEC in total takeaways. So it gave their offense more opportunities on the field. And so that's something we did not see under Chad Morris. That's not something we saw under Brett Bielema's last year at Arkansas. That's and they've got a lot of those guys that forced those turnovers back, and all those guys that had a big part of why they were successful in offense back outside of Mike Woods and Felipe Franks.
This last statistic ties the pass per attempt on offense to the pass per attempt given up on defense. So once again, Arkansas passed for almost 3 more yards per attempt in 2020 than they did in 2019. Combine that with the defensive effort in giving up more than 1 yard less per pass attempt in 2020 versus 2019, and you have an improvement by the combined offensive and defensive efficiency of over 4 yards per pass attempt. That was tied with Maryland and Coastal Carolina for the best figure in the nation. And if it doesn't sound like a big deal to anybody that, Arkansas only gave up 1.3 yards per less per pass attempt, big deal. It's a yard. 1.3, you're going to give up about somewhere in the range of 400 pass attempts in a season. You're talking about 600 yards over the course of a season. So combine the offense and the defense in the passing game in terms of explosiveness and efficiency, and they improve that much. Tied for best in the nation.
I think, again, I think it goes back to just the overall improvement that Odom put on defense and what he was able to do at the secondary. You look at their game planning from Mississippi State. He was like, yeah, we're going to rush 3, maybe 4, but primarily we're going to bring 3 and we're going to drop everybody else back in coverage. And so it really, I think it hit the morale of opposing quarterbacks. They either picked them off clean. They were really high the first, I want to say, 4 games of the year in total pass breakups and limiting yards after catch. I mean, you go down all these numbers. It's like, oh my gosh, what was Chad Morris doing for the last 2 years? What was Brett Bielema doing his last year as a head coach? And then on offense, again, I think it's the small things, but I think some of the play calling was obviously far improved compared to the last 3 years. But it just speaks to the just finally putting a better product on the field on both sides of the ball, without a doubt.
Ty Hudson getting the job done for us as he does each and every time on Arkansas football. Please check out his work at Big Trail Network. And again, one more time on the big news show coming up just prior to the Rice opener, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11 a.m. Central Time. Ty, I know you're going to release, or I'm guessing I should make the assumption, but going to release some kind of a prediction at some point. So I'm not going to press you for that. But do you have a pretty good feel of where you're headed with that pick on Arkansas?
I do. I mean, it's changed, I swear, like 4 times, but I feel like I'm pretty well dialed in. I'm going to release that win-loss ratio or the win-loss prediction on the 30th on that first show, and might surprise some, might upset a few, but I don't BS, and I'm going to give my honest opinion, try to be as unbiased as humanly possible. I mean, that's kind of my job. That's what people want out of me, so that's what I'm going to give them. So yeah, I'll be releasing that on the 30th on that first show.
All right, Ty. It's always a good time, man. Appreciate
Absolutely.
you.
Thanks for having me on.